Hari Om. I've been asked to speak about a very important aspect of an effect of meditation, which is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita but overlooked by many. And it is specifically this: when we reach or approach the goal of our meditation, we start to enter into, for most of us, an unknown world, a world of sensations that is supernatural, beyond our normal sense perception. And when this happens, even though it might be considered just a state of utter stillness of the mind, or samadhi in one of its lower stages, we feel a sense of unrest, or a little bit of doubt, or maybe unsafe, because we feel a dissolution, a softening and melting of the nature of the character which we consider ourself. This is referred to in chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 4, verse 14, where Sri Krishna says, "The wise one to whom happiness and unhappiness are the same, that one is ready for immortality." And further, "Thus, to those who receive this state, they are knowing my nature. They are ready for immortality." What Sri Krishna is referring to here is the state of internalization of the mind, when we literally start to perceive and, as Sri Krishna says, know the nature of God. This knowing of God causes the heart and soul to expand in an intuitional sense, to start to perceive the reality that the body sense identification is an illusion. And therefore all of the foibles of the ego, all the foibles of the lower mind, which say, I am this, I am that, they start to dissolve. This is what Sri Ramana Maharshi was referring to when he said, know that the wondrous jnana vichara, that knowledge and reflection upon the nature of jnana, of the God, of knowledge which is personified divinity. It is only perceived by those who undergo a softening and melting within. And Sri Ramana Maharshi further said that this softening and melting within is only accomplished by, quote, thinking of the feet of the Lord. When the mind reflects upon the nature of God, it starts to assume the nature of God. This is literally what is considered in the Vedic culture as the actual process of the Atman. The Atman having four powers, in a sense. The perceiving soul has powers of perception, assimilation, transformation, and at the same time utter immobility, or unchangeable nature, while this whole process of transformation is taking part. So literally, just as when we are perceiving the outer world and being affected by it, when we're in meditation perceiving inner realities, the powers of that intuitional mind, which is now very much integrated with the powers of literally the divinity within us, it starts to immediately perceive that nature. This is what Sri Krishna is referring to in chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 4, verse 14, when he says, "You will begin to know my nature." We start to perceive that, and what we know is, quote unquote, ourself, or the I, or my own character and nature, it starts to dissolve in that presence. And then we start to assimilate that nature into, now, from the higher mind into the rational, you might say, unfortunately, the intellectual mind. But as we start to assimilate it, that intellectual mind starts to transform. This is the truth of the purpose of meditation, that it is not the experience of meditation. It's the effect it has upon us, the transformative effect. And as this transformation is going on, we feel a little unsettled, because now we're in a world where we're perceiving nature and the things around us in the physical world with a supersensual eye. And we're seeing, in a sense, the unreality of the external world, which is being superseded and covered and transformed by the inner nature. So this is what happens when we start to get close to God. God literally, as was said of many, one of the names of the Lord is the tiger's mouth. Sri Ramana Maharshi had this name. Anandamayi Ma had this name. Sri Ramakrishna was talking about this. Sri Rama, all of the avatars of Shiva and Vishnu, they are like a devouring creature, in a sense, of super sensual and super divine character. That when you come into their presence, they begin to, in a sense, really devour that which is ignorance in us. And while this process is taking place, we feel a little unsettled. What should be done then, which is recommended by all who have gone before us, who have been successful and reached that highest state, is that what the process of divination, which is literally brought about by recollection, reflection on the nature of the self, and repetition of the name of the Lord, this should be carried on throughout the day. Not only during the period of meditation, but our mantra, our whatever breath meditation we do, which brings our focus and mental awareness within, that should be maintained and actually deepened even while we're outside of meditation. And thus we'll start to now move in the world with an intuitional eye. And therefore we will understand now what Sri Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, that those who are ready for immortality, they will literally have a heaven on earth. They will start to literally feel that they are never alone, that name, that recollection, that vichara and reflection upon the nature within is a guiding pole star, which will bring them and bring us toward that fulfilling nature. And it is through this meditation practice and this constant reflection upon the divinity within throughout the day, which furthers, maintains, and stabilizes us in this state. So therefore we'll never be unsure, doubts will be dismantled, and we will stand in the light of divinity.